You both did. Was it unanimous decision? Was it? What's that? You had the upper hand. That's what always happens. Brian's always at the upper hand. Charyce, it's kind of, you know. You know, you chose in the second reading, bar none, the most appropriate and perfect reading for a wedding. Probably 85 to 90% of weddings that we do, the second reading which is chosen, and it's a beautiful one from Corinthians, that says love is patient, love is kind, love does not rejoice in what is wrong. And that is a gorgeous reading. But the one that you have chosen from Paul's letter to the people of Colossae is an even more powerful reading. It's become even more, it's always been my favorite reading to do at weddings. It became much more powerful a little less than a year ago when I actually stood at the ancient ruins of Colossae in Greece and was able to see where Paul would have been preaching this message to the people. Because what Paul does is Paul gives to us what is called the inverted form of loving. We live in a world, I guess you would call it contemporary psychology, at least from the days of Freud, that our behavior is based upon either fear of what is to come or an appreciation of what is to come. Now you guys have heard this, I'll give you this, because this is how your parents raised you, right? They said, you ever hear this? If you want dessert, you have to finish everything that's on your plate. Did you ever hear that? And we said that your parents were responsible parents because they did that, right? Beautiful. So then I want to flip ahead to when you were like 16 and you both possessed a driver's license. And you asked your parents for the vehicle on the weekend. And they would have said, if you want the vehicle on the weekend, you've got to clean your room, or you've got to do this. Did you ever hear even remote language like that? It's what parents do. And we call them responsible parents. Now I want to give you an example of inversion. I want you guys to think forward about 16 years and 10 months. When your first one gets his driver's license, all right? There's some pressure, Ryan, but get on. And your child asks you for the car on the weekend. And you say this, you know what? Here's the car. Don't worry about the bedroom. Here's a full tank of gas that we put into the vehicle. Here's the credit card in case you need to put any more in there. And bring the car home whenever you want. If you did that, you would be referred to by everybody here as irresponsible, wouldn't you? You know what Paul says? You got it. So Paul says is this, see, we think that in order to experience God's love, or to get the blessing, or to get the grace, that it's based upon our behavior. That's wrong. What Paul says is this, our behavior is a direct result of what we have already received. That's why he begins by saying, you are God's chosen ones, his saints, he loves you. Now if somebody was to walk up to you and say, you are God's chosen ones, his saints, and he loves you, you would think, you know what? I have the whole world in my hand, don't I? And you do. See, we can close the book. You are God's chosen ones, his saints, and he loves you. Nothing more needs to be said. But what Paul says is this, because of that, and the love that God has loved you, the expectation then, not out of fear of what is to come, but out of appreciation and gratitude for what has been received, you should act with sincerity and kindness and meekness, and above all things put on Christ. See, it's not about coercion. It's not about fear. It's not about manipulation. Although that's what we do. To get somebody to do something, we sometimes manipulate it. You know? I mean, I do it every day with my dog. You know, you want the treat? Roll over. You know, jump up and down. Do this, you know. I do it with my nieces and nephews. You know, you want $10 from Uncle David, like singing a song. You know, go get me a cheeseburger, whatever it is, you know. We do that. What Paul is saying here is he turns it around. Because I hope that the two of you realize today is that this is not by fate. You did not go to the casino, put money into a machine, and all of a sudden the face of your attendant shows up. This has been orchestrated by God since the very beginning. You know, you get your parents here. Can I embarrass your parents for just a few minutes? How many years together? 31? 35 in October. What was it? 35 and 31. Mom and Dads, did you realize on the day 31 and 35 years ago when you said yes and you were orchestrating what's happening today? And the reason you didn't, because it was a mystery at that time. You know, 31 years ago, 35 years ago, you were worried about the same thing that your children are worried about today. The same thing. Are we going to be happy? Are we going to be able to endure everything that is out there? Are they going to like the food we chose for the supper? Are we going to run out of booze? I mean, those questions that everybody asks, and we've asked them for ages. But that happened. You have grandparents who are here with you. And that blessing goes back even to your grandparents, because it was when they said yes that this began to be orchestrated. It's not by fate. It is because God's love has continued to be there. You know, a few years ago, it was a wonderful experience for me. The bride and the groom, it was first marriage for both of them. They were 50 years old. First marriage for both of them. And the question that I asked them is, did you ever stop believing that God would reveal to you the person? And they said no. And because they always believed, it happened. And to see that fills us with so much assurance that really it's all about this God who has loved. And it's his love that he draws us into that continues to carry us through whatever it is. Now your parents, they're going to admit this. It's not always been easy, has it? It's not always going to be easy. But what takes us through every situation is the fact that we come back to this blessing. You know, the church, and I know sometimes the church gets a rap of being not relevant, but I want to read you something. This was written in 1954. And it applies today, and it is so filled with just goodness. It says this: your union, most serious, because it will bind the two of you together in a relationship so close and so intimate that it will profoundly influence the rest of your lives together. You know, one of the great things about marriage is that groom comes in, bride comes in, they come in as individual people, propped up by their parents. And guess what? In about 20 minutes' time, you're going out of here, propped up by each other. But everything from now on is not about an individual, it's about a corporate reality. It's about a union. And it says the future with its hopes and disappointments, successes and its failures, pleasures and pains, and joys and sorrows, is today hidden from your eyes, the same as it was hidden 35 years ago or 31 years ago. All of these joys and sorrows, pleasure and pains are mingled into every life, and they should be expected in your own. And so, not knowing what lies before you, you make this incredible statement to the people by standing here and saying, I'm going to take this person, for better, for worse, for richer, for poor, in sickness and health, until death. That's the beauty of the mystery. We don't know what lies tomorrow. What you do know is that God is already blessed and God is already loved. And the response is to take what God has given to you and honor it, and to love it, and to allow God just to continue to bless you. The church says no greater blessing can come to your married life than pure conjugal love that is loyal and true to the end. May then this love in which you enjoy in your hands and your hearts never fail, but grow more deep and strong as the years go on. And this is why I want you to look to these parents. After 31 and 35, the passion may not be as high. What they will tell you with all sincerity is they love each other more strong and more deep than they loved on the day that they were here. Am I saying this? And that's your gift to you. That's your blessing. And if this true love and the unselfish spirit of perfect sacrifice guide your every action, you ready for the kicker? Then the two of you can expect the greatest measure of earthly happiness that can be allotted to humanity. You can expect the greatest measure of earthly happiness. It's a blessing. And so, tonight or tomorrow, or whatever you guys want to do. Tomorrow? Tuesday 2, where? BC. You'd be kind of vague about that. It's like, you don't want them to follow you. I guess that's what it is. You go into the hot springs are really beautiful. I want you sometime in the next few days to bless God for what He's given to you. God loves nothing more than a grateful heart. And as Paul says, you are God's chosen ones, His saints in devotion. Give that blessing to God. And tonight, moms and dads, when they have the dance and they bring the parents out to the floor, I hope you will think back 31 and 35 years ago. And that person that you're dancing with, I hope you bless God for that individual. Because this today is because you're loved. And the reason you love today and do what you do is because it's already been done. And it's the right thing. And that blessing will continue to be yours. I wish you only that greatest earthly happiness. And should I live many, many more years, I hope that one day I'll be sitting in my house reading the Start Phoenix Weekend edition, and there'll be your picture saying celebrating 50 years of marriage. Because that's that blessing that just continues and continues. That's what God has in store for you. He has brought the two of you here. And while you walk hand in hand out this door in a few minutes' time, you don't walk alone. Because the one who's given you each other will continue to give to you each day. Blessings to you. And with that, now I'm going to ask the two of you to stand before your family and your friends to exchange your vows and your consent.